I want to talk about spatial object programming. And it's much easier than the word programming might imply. So, programming. What is programming? When I made these slides, I thought, oh, this is actually maybe an interesting introduction for augmented reality. Programming somehow is actually about making connections. When you write code, you have functions that have certain ideas coded into it, and you line them up and connect them, and that forms a program. Right? So it's a very simple process. And so my question here is, how can everyone program connections with physical objects around us, like all the things in the everyday life around us? What we know so far, everyone is having is their apps and their drop-down menus and so on, and there is really nothing out there in all of these IoT things, stuff that is in the physical world that allows you to program or connect things with each other. So I just want to bring up the gold standards of simple user interfaces and the most simple program, because the same light switch and the light you can represent with an action that is a start. It initiates the action of turning the light on or off and stops the program, and that's already a program. A light switch is a function and a light. So I wind a little bit back the time. 2013 we started to do a little bit. You hear the sound from here? Maybe this one. Does that work, the sound? Well, you hear it just very silent. So we have this wonderful little user interface for the radio that allows you to not only see the world, but then also reprogram the things around you. And okay. So in this demo, I can just drag and drop an MP3 onto a wheel from a radio, a tuning knob, and I reprogram a physical thing. That's maybe a cool demo, but the really interesting part in this demo, when it comes to programming, happens after we show off this whole interface, because then we created this really simple interaction. There's a second speaker, and I just draw a line from one speaker to the other. And suddenly they're connected. Another little program has been created, two things talking to each other. So, well, this also works with the teapot. We can connect a knob, a rotation knob, to the properties of the teapot, and we change its properties with a physical knob. It's a system that we built on top of all of these things. The same thing also works with a light switch and the light. Here you see some of the properties of these two objects. I draw a line, push a button, and that works. And here a little bit more complex. There's some knobs in an Audi car. We had a collaboration with Audi on that. And daisy chained all the windows together. I loop it, it's pretty quick. And so all the windows go up and down. So we can form these little programs. It's super simple to do, but I would like to know how can we also put a little bit more complex programs into the physical world around us and more logic. Because then we can do things like the following demo. We have a 6-axis robot that we built with some Legos, and it has quite some functionality, and we can operate it with a phone. I show a web page in the end where you can look up all of this stuff. All that software is open source and available, and you can try it yourself. And then there's this other thing here that's, I want to see if I can get my, so here's, it's very dark, but you see here's a little bookmark that's just on the, yeah, wonderful. A little bookmark, and this bookmark has some magical powers because it's part of this entire system, And so when Anissa here is closing the book, that book is connected to her home, and so the blinds go down, the light turns off, another light turns off, another blind, and the choreography goes on, and stops with the thermostat. I think we can turn the light back on, and that's kind of a nice choreography. And so all of this choreography happening in this home actually was programmed into the space, so that when the book closes, actually this whole space creates these kind of interactions. So we tried a couple of things to try to get a simple interface for that. So one version was we just add a couple of these little nodes and basically show every functionality that we could end up with, but it's really complicated. We added some virtual nodes in there that would allow us already to form some more complicated or more complex tasks. Like here you can formulate this little sentence up there and it actually would work. We built the whole thing into a little Lego car, and it already looks a little bit crowded, and so that was not the way to go. We thought about something else. And there's something else I wanna show you with the live demo. So let's see. First of all, if I can find my mouse pointer. Here's this little app, and this app, we made it public, and you can download it to your Mac and open it, and it connects automatically to U-Lights and Lego we do. And now I'm gonna go full screen. So you can go to this web page. You find all the code and apps and everything there. So, okay. So in front of me, I have a little Lego object with a flag that can wave, and a little car. And so when I look at this car, I see some of these nodes. Here you have one for motor, one for distance. That's just a sensor that's here on the top front. And then here a button and the light. And maybe you can see when I push that button, the light turns on. Because they're connected. If I swipe through that little line, they're disconnected, and I can reconnect it. It's connected again. So now this car, of course, what I could do, I can connect the button to, let's say, the motor. And when I push the button, it does some motion that is not really, doesn't make sense. So what I would like to do is, let's say I have this second goal here, and when I push the button, it should drive up, and then here's the sensor, and it should stop. And so I program this little thing. So what do? We have this here, we have this little pocket, and when I drag and drop from that pocket into a space, I have a new node. It has a new shape. I move this a little bit more to the side. And now I can wire this up. So from the button, and it's color-coded, and you will see later why. And then I want to come from here, and it's the distance sensor, and that goes into the other one. Oops, that didn't work. The distance sensor. Nah. And this is always the moment with the live demo. Okay, I will get there. Okay, it's connected. So you see it's showing up here as a little node. And then I go into the motor. So now I have wired this up. And now when I click onto that node, I get this new interface, and it has the same color coding than before. And one layer further, I have blocks. Each block represents a small little logic piece. And what we want to create is a switch that when I push on one side, it goes on and can drive the car. And then when it switches on the other side, it turns off again. So that's like a seesaw, that's how we call it. I drop this in here, draw a line, and oops, going back. Okay, so I've wired this up, and let's see if this works. And cause nothing works. Nah, come on. So, because earlier I wanted to put this little logo in here, and probably now I destroyed the demo. Oh no, it does. So I show it through this here. So I push the button, and this goes and turns off. Very small little program, and it's put into augmented space. You could walk around and program the world around you. And finishing up this demo, we still have the little flag. So I add another one of these nodes, and this time I wire the distance sensor in that node into the blue, and from the blue to the motor. And I go in here, and I want a threshold this time, so that basically when it's close enough, it knows it should rotate. And so this function is already here. I push the button, and it does that. So of course there are a lot of functions here. So you have delays. That would be the function that was used in the living room to coordinate the whole setting. We even have some if this then that, if you want to connect to some cloud services, scale, and all of these things. Because an interesting property of this system is that everything that I've showed you in this demo is web-based. And this tool here, the Reality Editor, is actually probably the first web browser that exists for augmented reality, with a very complex programming system in it. And to illustrate you what that means, I have my little business card here, and I just took the Twitter feed from the Media Lab and put it on here. And the interesting thing is that all of these interfaces that you see, each of them is actually a web page. So you can build these things very easily. And you can go to, let's make it dark. You can go to realityeditor.org. You can download this app, and you can download the services, and the code and everything is available there. We built this little starter app. If you have some U-lights at home, don't give this to your kids, because then you might get all the interesting interactions happening. Well, what do you think?